Hello there, and welcome to the First Steps of God with Bethy, PJ, and Paul.
Hey.
And our two little hippos who were having an argument. We were deciding, like, what are they arguing about? And are they going to actually be able to to actually stay as friends? And why have they fallen out so easily? And that's actually a picture of our society where people are falling out over the smallest things and some big issues as well. But we have a very fragmented society, and we're talking about almost every country out there at the moment. What is it that has led the world and led our society, especially Western society, to become so divided and polarized? And if you dare to say one sort of thing or wear a certain kind of hat or go to a certain kind of event, you're vilified in the media and so on. How have we got to this place where there's little free speech, where you can get arrested for saying the wrong thing, or someone feels offended, you could even call the cops on that particular issue, or there's race issues, there are issues between nations. I mean, what is going on in our world? How have we become so fragile, so broken, so divided?
Yeah, and people, they might be now in their 50s or 60s, and people find something that they said 40 years before or something that was perhaps not quite the right thing to say. And they're now and you're like, this is too much pressure that everything you ever say is going to be inspected and held up. It's just too much to bear. Why are we like all that? And I do think it's an interesting thing that I remember years ago when I first was introduced to the Middle Ages lectures, and I was like 19 or something, went to a series of lectures, and the opening lecture was from a man who said, what do you think of when you think of the Middle Ages? And then people said different words like, it's like mud, disease, depression, and then all sorts of things. And he said, no, if you really study it, the actual word is joy. And he said there's a joy of thinking as the most of all. And he said it's because they're absolutely captivated with the kingdom of heaven and Jesus Christ and the scriptures and things. And because that dominates them, they're able to think all kinds of things and have arguments and all sorts of what they call disputations, where they almost as for entertainment almost.
Well, they would. They'd get, every student had to have been able to uphold and defend an utterly untenable position.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah, like what time period of history is this?
Well, this is like the scholastics particularly, so like 11th, 12th century
11th century
what if our universities held on to that? That's a true university. We've lost that.
Yeah, we've lost that.
Well, some founded in the medieval period still do have disputations, but then it was so widely done at the time, and so they'd have to be able to defend the idea that there is no God, which was at the time just considered absolute absurdity. No one obviously believed that, but you'd have to have someone defend that and someone else. So everyone, the first thing you learnt really was how to disagree before you learnt anything else.
The joy of arguing and disagreeing, and they could do that because their identity was so secure. They knew themselves to be like citizens of the kingdom of heaven, and truth and beauty and goodness is absolutely secure by the Lord Jesus in his kingdom.
And thinking, and even being willing to sort of expand your thinking. That's all protected because you belong to the King of Kings.
And he's got it all in his hand, truth, beauty and goodness. So that way you could experiment with ideas and come up with silly things and argue for them. And
so now that society in the Western world, we're talking about certain pockets of the world, because there's some highly intelligent parts of the world that haven't rejected God. And like if you look at certainly this part of the world, you'll have this idea where there isn't a lot of freedom anymore really to discuss and debate. You have universities even putting little sanctuaries and safe spaces and places where you're not even allowed to ask questions, just simple questions about life and lifestyle or choices and so on. It's bizarre.
And you can have these like views about things, and you're just saying this is how I see things, and just stating that can honestly deeply offend someone, which would something that could not have happened before because there was an ideological difference. And I mentioned this before, but it's about that existentialism, that idea that all you really know is yourself and your own opinions and thoughts and feelings and experiences. That's all you really know. You know, I think, therefore I am. That's that thing Descartes said. And it's like, before you know anything else, you only know yourself. And then because people have that, their opinions and feelings and thoughts are utterly personal, because there's something they've produced. It's all they really can produce in that view of the world. And so when you do question people's opinions and things, of course it does strike to them like the very core of everything they believe, because everything they believe is caught up in their own experiences and themselves. And then if you do tear apart that, then that is, they've got nothing else.
Yeah, I found an interesting example of that, where there was a mum telling off a child for doing something wrong. But she didn't say, you've done something wrong. She said, Mummy doesn't like that. And I'm like, well, so what? Like, she might not like jazz music, so should the kid not play jazz? Or she might not like green, so don't have anything green or whatever. No, that's a ridiculous thing to say to a child. What the child needs to know is that there's something more important than personal opinions, that if you do something like steal something or hurt somebody, that's wrong. And whether whether your opinion isn't important, this is just true that things are right or wrong. Whereas I think now there is this whole idea, it's all just your opinion. It's all your opinion.
Truth.
Your truth.
That's the big word that's been bandied around. It's my truth. It's your truth. Whatever you make truth to be, you must live to your truth. What does that mean? That's not even goes against what the word actually means.
Yeah, that's right.
But that just doesn't even make sense. It sounds foolish. But if I say that, someone's going to get offended, and you could get reported for saying, "Oh, that sounds foolish." What kind of world do we live in?
I know.
Not a free one, isn't it? Not a civilized one or anything. And that you have like...
It is uncivilized, actually, this division that we have in society.
And to think you'd have medieval kings who would invite jesters and things, who would openly mock them and think, like you have in Shakespeare, these jesters, and the king will keep them around more than ever because they'll tell them the truth and they're not afraid to say it, things like that. And that would be valued to the point where a king would pay lots of money for a very frank an opinionated
person to make fun of them, tell them things they didn't want, in a way shouldn't want to hear. But they paid for that, whereas now people will arrest you for that sort of thing. And it's just that tragedy, isn't it, that the universities, when they were run by Christians, they were places of free and open disagreement, dialogue.
Well, that's when all the science and all the science, wealth of thought came about, really. People have forgotten that.
And in a post-Christian world, it's like, oh no, because what happens if someone gets upset? And it's like, well, one, they shouldn't really get upset just because someone's got a different idea to them.
And what if someone finds scientific evidence that creation is actually, which is the case, that if the data that you are presenting actually begins to support a creator rather than this evolution, is that allowed in university or is that shut down?
Not, So it's one that the person shouldn't really get upset by merely hearing another view, but also that idea that actually it's a good thing to maybe be upset and offended. Like I've all my life had to confront ideas that upset me and offended me. Even like Speaker's Corner and debating with people all the time, and they'll say things I'm like, oh, that's a really tough idea.
Have to explain what Speaker's Corner is.
Oh yeah, Speaker's Corner in London. In London, where we go and debate with Muslims, and I became great friends with some of those people, but they constantly said things to me that kind of offended me, disturbed me, upset me. But I actually thanked them for that because it made me think, and it made me think, oh, well, I don't know how to answer that question. What is the truth? That's a great thing to do. But if we're in a society where it's like, I don't want to hear ideas that I disagree with and they upset me, and I want to be able to be protected from any idea and any ideas that I disagree with, that is leading us to become like babies. That's not being adults. And what happens with social media, people only join groups where people tell them exactly what they already believe. I'm almost like the opposite. Because I follow Jesus and I'm confident the truth is absolutely safe with him, I deliberately join all the groups that are people I don't agree with, because I want to be challenged. I want to think more. I want to understand people that I don't yet understand. I want to know how they think. And Jesus gives me the confidence to do that, because I know he's got the truth, he's got goodness, he's got beauty.
And their opinion of you and their opinion of your lifestyle or your choices or your thinking, it doesn't affect you in any negative way. One, you look at them and think, you're created in the image of God, I'm created in the image of God. That's our value. That's what's mostly important.
Brilliant.
We've got to talk about this more. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.